One of the methodology I'm particularly fond of is that of Kaizen. So this focused approach allows us to shine a light on the problem in scope and question pretty much everything from start to finish. You determine the scope of the process that you need to tackle. So for example, let's say you might decide you want to implement new tax software, and maybe you also want to embrace a data wrangling and analytics solution. But at the same time, you're looking around and you're like, I need to, improve my processes around my state income tax compliance. So how do you navigate all of those? A process like Kaizen I find very helpful because you, in that process, will identify your current state process. You'll question it all along the way, start to finish. And you're really looking for waste and inconsistencies in the current process. So you look for places to simplify, and you do that before moving on to the next phase of embracing new tools that you may have walked in the door focused on. And the Kaizen methodology itself really spans the length of the project from initiation to conclusion. But it generally does include a Kaizen event where much of the current state mapping takes place. You can picture yourself in a room with a team of people really asking all these questions and mapping out the why, questioning norms, questioning why you do things. And then the focus is to come out of that with a desired future state and an initial work plan. I like to think of these project teams as representatives, including representatives across all levels and all areas of the work that is in scope. This brings a diversity of perspective into the conversation, make sure you have the right people at the table looking around the corners when asking those questions. And another point I'll make about Kaizen itself, and you can see, it's continuous improvement. It's really focused on change, and there is a change management aspect to this. How big that is may very well depend on your organization, the size of the group impacted by the change, and the complexity that's being pursued. But we like to bring in change management exercises into our Kaizen events itself, because this allows that upfront recognition of challenges and obstacles, and even shining a light on resistance at the very beginning. So, that's a little conceptually about what Kaizen is, but I want to bring Darren back in and ask him, Darren, can you share from your perspective some of the business benefits of a methodology like this?
I think it's fantastic. So loosely translated, Kaizen means change for the better. I think Kai means change and Zen means good. And as you mentioned, we typically refer to that as continuous improvement in our space. And the events, as you mentioned, are highly collaborative. There's a cross-functional team of people that are focused on solving a specific problem. And it works well because people tend to support what they help create. And leveraging Kaizen as a structured event to get to some of that improvement can offer enormous values to an organization. There are multiple types of Kaizen events that are important to kind of point out. You can do a waste Kaizen event where you're looking at the inefficiencies within a process, or in a production setting where you have leftover product, in a utilization or professional services setting where we have hours that are being used against non-value added tasks. A Kaizen event is ideal to identify the process and call out where that waste may exist. Kaizen shows up well in error proofing. If we took a focused effort on just looking at the errors in our process and bringing in tools like mistake proofing or some of the other ways that we can engineer a process so that there's no errors in execution. So we can code data fields to be number or alpha specific, or we can capture other data points that require conditions and rules to drive against that. And that will help us engineer a process which is free of errors. We can also look at Kaizen events for lead times, etc. The value of it is that it helps team becomes crisp on a few things. It helps teams understand what is the problem. It helps teams understand why it is a problem, where the problem is located within the value chain or within the service delivery cycle. It helps identify when it actually became a problem, Was it a problem when we first got the work in, or was it a problem at a certain stage within the flow when we didn't have access to the right data, or there was some ambiguity with a standard or a requirement? It helps us understand who the problem shows up and impacts the most. And then it helps us understand the overall impact of the collection of problems that may show up against a particular value chain. So the benefits of Kaizen are fantastic. They offer a lot of clarity for people that are looking at both the process and the workflow. So I guess in sum, the benefits of Kaizen, I would say, Tracy, is that it's team problem solving from the bottom up. It helps us get real clear on the priorities that we need to put in place to solve for the Kaizen event that we're focused in on: waste, error proofing, lead time. It helps with better process ownership so that we're clear who's responsible for what, when, and where, and what they need to come back with when their stage of the process is complete, because that step feeds someone else's step, and helps improve the overall value chain of the work that we are delivering.